Welcome to the Pedal Collaborative podcast. We're so glad you're here.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another week of the Pedal Collaborative podcast. I'm your host, Paul, returned from
The dead.
sick leave. Yeah, the dead. And I'm here with Alan.
Hey, everybody. How is it going?
Well, I'm glad to be back. I'm also bummed to have missed our Collision Devices interview. I listened to it as noted by you sharing my live reactions. Well,
Yeah.
not live reactions, but listening back and reacting to everything you guys talked about. It was really cool to have those guys on. Excited to talk with them again.
Definitely.
But this week, what are we talking about, Alan?
Well, this week we actually have a sponsor. So this week's episode is brought to you by Paul and myself. The Pedal Collaborative is sponsoring today's episode. No, so I wanted to actually, this week is kind of a catch up to some of our conversations. We had two really, really great interviews. The last two episodes that we released, we had Terry and Angelo, and then, Dennis and Batiste. Even though I asked him how to say it, I kept getting it wrong, and he was so gracious to just be.
I really appreciated that you started the episode and tried to end the episode in French, though.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
I literally have been Duolingoing.
I believe you
with French.
You speak to quite a few different countries and languages in your day to day, as you mentioned on the episode.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with accents either. I know some people do. I like it's pretty easy for me to pick them out and understand what people are saying, and also I always am impressed by everybody speaks English better than I speak their language by a million times over.
Absolutely. I mean, I understand. I mean, I understand personally the thought process of not wanting to embarrass yourself in a language that's not your own. As you know, I lived in Mexico for about a year and a half, and I constantly felt this oh my goodness, am I going to completely butcher the language? And I did, but the people are so gracious to. I think there is this just overarching graciousness when someone's trying your language to just be happy with it and excited and all that sort of stuff. So this is the social justice portion of the episode, y'all. Feel free if you are starting to learn another language, and if you have an opportunity. See, I can't even speak English. If you have an opportunity to speak that other language with a native speaker, you will make their day, whether you're in your country or theirs. Starting to speaking other people's languages just breaks down barriers and brings people closer together. So thank you. The end. Go do your good deed. That's all.
Yes, there you go. So back to us sponsoring ourselves, though, because we lost the narrative there.
We did. Well, okay, so we have released a couple preset packs recently. Oh, Paul, we're just so you know, you just dug your eye crud out. We're recording video right now.
Well, we're not posting the video.
Oh, but we will.
This is getting cut out.
It's not getting cut out.
It's getting cut out.
Having our second fight ever on air. We've released a couple preset packs, and I wanted to bring some attention to that, and not so much because of. Well, the reality is, I wanted people to know because for so long I've been just the Meris LVX and Meris Mercury X presets, and those have been a staple for us. They're my favorite. They're my personal favorite delay and reverb pedals.
Yeah.
And with the endeavor that Meris did with creating the Enzo X, as we talked to Terry and Angelo the other week. Happy belated birthday, Angelo, by the way. We released our first ever Meris Enzo X preset pack, but we did that a little bit differently, and we'll go to that in a second. But then today, as of recording Monday, April 28th, we just dropped a completely different type of preset packs that are not Meris. I guess it's not really that different because
it's delay. It's still delay, but
but we just dropped our first little preset pack for the OG Strymon Timeline.
Yes.
And I think this one's called Paul's Tasty Treats is what it's called.
Is that what you actually named it? I didn't know what you named it.
No, I just named it Paul's Timeline Pack, but
on YouTube,
the slug
Paul's
on
Fresh
YouTube
Tasty
Paul's
Treats.
Fresh Tasty Treats. Yeah, it was late last night. I didn't know what else to do. But I want to give everybody a sense of how to get those because it's different. what we've been doing has grown so much, and we've had to make some adjustments, just for our sanity. So here's the deal. If you've been with us on, we're going to jump over to the Patreon side of things. I want everyone to understand kind of how this has been working. Um, on Patreon, there are two ways to get our preset packs. First is to become a collaborator with us, and there are many folks who have been OG collaborators from the beginning. We actually locked that out, and those people they can stay there perpetually, forever and ever and ever at the legacy line, and still get all of the LVX and Mercury X preset packs. So for those of you who are legacy collaborators, that's not stopping. Um, you're good to go. But with all the growth that we've been doing and what the different, I guess, the formats of the presets that we're gonna be working on, we kind of expanded some things. So, we have individual collaborator packs, or sorry, tiers. So, like, if you just wanna be LVX or just wanna be Mercury X, you can do that. Or if you want access to everything that we make, that is the core collaborator tier. And as of right now, the core collaborator tier has access to the Meris Enzo X pack and the Paul's Fresh Tasty Treats Timeline pack. Um, I think I'm gonna go rename it everywhere, the Paul's Fresh Tasty Treats pack.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
So core collaborators get all of that, but that also means the additional formats that we're working on, which at this point we're working on some Line 6 HX Stomp stuff. We're working on some Eventide H90 stuff. Even to like, I've got that Vongon replay, and I've been making some presets for myself that could be that would be something that the core collaborators would all have access to once we release those. Um,
Yes.
we have yet to make additional tiers for, like, let's say, just the Enzo X, because right now there's only one pack, and that's, until we start actually having, I would say, regular content, it's not going to be its own tier. So if you're wanting like unlimited access to all of the content, the core collaborator pack is, or sorry, the tier is where you want to go. That said, you can also just go to the shop, patreon.com/the pedal collaborative/shop, and just purchase whatever preset packs that you want. And this is something I want to get into for people to understand, because this is something that we haven't advertised, but I think it's significant to know. If you have purchased any of the ultimate packs, and it's probably a good idea if I actually go to our shop and talk about this. Um, if you've purchased any of the ultimate packs, and that is primarily for Maris stuff right now. So there's the Maris Ultimate Pack, and then there's a Maris LVX Ultimate Pack and a Maris Mercury X Ultimate Pack. Um, those are perpetual licenses, which in this case means that every time we add, in these instances, Maris preset packs, they will go into that ultimate pack. And if you've purchased it at any time in the past, you have access to all the new stuff, right? So if you purchased like the Maris LVX ultimate pack that we have, if you purchased it when was only maybe two preset packs, little did you know, you've got access to, I think, five now, because they're all in the ultimate pack. So I keep updating
As
what.
are the LA wildfire ones.
Correct, correct. The LA Wildfire basically took the name of our preset pack 5 for the Mercury X and the LVX, but they are in the ultimate packs. Also, little did you know, if you bought the ultimate pack together, which was everything from the LVX and Mercury X, we put the Enzo X pack in there as well. So it's all perpetual. If you've purchased any of those ultimate packs in the past, you have access to everything new coming up. So just something that I want everybody to know, only because they may have access to new things that they didn't know about.
Yeah, so this is less of an ad. It is a little bit of an ad, but more of a PSA.
It's
Because
PSAA.
also, yeah, that's a testing in Pennsylvania, right? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think
So,
it's this week, actually.
well,
Oh, no,
anyhow,
PSSA, not PSAA.
yes. So, yes, because we have definitely had the question of people not realizing how to get things, and if you are one of those ultimate pack owners, you have it all.
You
So
have everything.
go grab everything. Go grab the Enzo X. It's there for you. You don't need to buy anything new. It's all there. And if you're a core collaborator and you have a timeline, go grab that. Or if you're not, you can also buy it from the shop, as Alan mentioned as well.
Yeah.
So
I am gonna go ahead and say, if you are a core collaborator and you have a timeline, why do you still have a timeline? You should have an LVX. That's my personal thought.
or you can be like me and have both.
You could. Uh,
I feel like me and have both for different reasons and use them for different things and
that's
applications.
true, but and as great, so Paul, you made those presets for the timeline. We're switching off the PSSA right now, the PSAA. You made those presets for the timeline, and those delay sounds that you have, I mean, they sound glorious. There's 8 of them there. You have clearly dialed them in over the years, from
Did I
having.
explain them well too? Did you feel like my explanations were good?
I did, I
I
did.
put some love and care into explaining them to people what they were getting.
Thank you. I still couldn't help but, personally still not like the sound of the timeline, and it feels too digital and sterile to me listening back. Now, granted, this is all subjective, right? People's listening ears are all subjective. Um, Mine is less such because I have a microphone in front of me right now, and I can say these things.
Yes, that's how that works. That's
It
exactly how it
does.
works. No,
Uh,
I will say because the same day I worked on that video this weekend, I also am working on a preset pack for the LVX. Spoiler alert, more to come. For
Spoiler alert, hell yeah.
spoiler alert for those of you who are core collaborators and or have the ultimate pack. Um, and
Well, the
they
core
are
collaborators would already have the ultimate pack because the core collaborators have everything
well,
unlocked.
yeah, just whatever. It's fine. Just let it go. Still not 100% here. My brain's not. My brain is
Oh,
definitely
that's
not
true.
caught up. My brain is
That's true.
definitely not caught up to pre-sick Paul. It's really
Yeah,
out of sorts. Um, but there is definitely distinct differences in not obviously distinct differences in how you interact with the pedals.
sure.
Going back and forth between the timeline and the LVX, I'm sorely missing. As I think Terry and Angela touched on this when we were talking with them about the design of the X series, as we have called them.
Yes, and
The
we
big
got
the
we
big
got Angela
boxes.
to say officially the X series.
I did hear that on the episode. So, um, I wanted more exposed on the timeline to be able to mess with it. There's a lot of
Okay.
stuff on the timeline that's like pre-baked,
You're
which
talking
makes
like
it like
parameters and
parameter
UI.
control.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. When I'm in it, there's a lot of like pre-baked stuff for each individual like model.
Yeah.
Which like they sound good, but then I was like, because I have been working in the LVX as well, I was like, oh, I wish I could just like slightly change the way that this hits here, or like even visualize the filter differently.
Yeah.
Um, so I will say I still love my timeline, but they are distinctly different beasts, and it does feel like now not just because it's actually, but like you're going like 15 years back in the past when you play with the timeline versus the LVX as I'm messing with it, or like just even trying to build a preset. It's just so much easier as a workflow, and then it's I think this is like worth sharing because I've shared this with you in our personal like it was like overwhelming and a challenge to me personally to have so much parameter control because it's almost like choice overload to
With
start
the
with the LVX. With the
LVX.
LVX, like there's so
This was when
much
you first started with
when I
it?
first started. There's
Got it.
so much, but then once you sort of understand what each module does, how you don't need to use them, which we have talked about, you don't have to turn them on.
Right.
It starts to become like a lot more fun to have all of that to dig into. And I will say, just fidelity wise, the LVX is really, really, really hi-fi in a way that I obviously know to my ears of playing both of them, but like there was like a 2 minute lull between when I was working on presets this weekend,
Mm.
and it was like, holy crap, this is like a totally different machine. Like this
Yeah.
is like so modern, so high def, and just sonically, like not the control, like it was
Right.
just night and day. The two
Well, and I think
sound
that's
cards.
where that's what I was referencing to in terms of the timeline, now in 2025 for me, um, is pure sonic, uh, sound, and it's almost like have any of the settings where you have them, doesn't matter. Even turn the damn thing off. It's what is like, it's not about not fiddling it's not about fiddling around, it's not about adjusting parameters, it's about playing through it, and I feel like, now I can't I can't even just can't do it because it's like putting a wet blanket on top of everything now, going back to the
Yeah,
timeline. So,
I
but
I can agree with that. I
like you said, though,
also I
it is
like
how
it
many
still
years.
though.
Well, no, and that's fine, and obviously a lot of people do, and especially when we look at the worship pedal boards, which there's a teaser segue into where we're going in a little bit. when we look at like at all the like worship pedal boards, there's still a shit ton of timelines. And it's because I think, you know, we can talk about this as why worship players use something like that for so long. But like you create that setting and you have those settings dialed in, and like it's really complicated to then think about, going into something brand new. Um, but anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. I think I mentioned this to you. This is an aside for me. I mentioned this to you before, and it hit me after we were recording with Terry and Angelo. But I mean, Terry's a young guy, so the word grandfather is not meant in an agely way. I made that word up.
Ageist way.
It's not definitely not ageist, but it's not meant on age. It's meant more on experience and what he's brought to our community. But if he was there working on in the Line 6 era from the DL4, which I think I can arguably say was the first explosion into m digital multi-delay effects. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
I'm trying to quick brain map when the DD20 came out, but
I.
doesn't matter, doesn't
I'll
matter.
find out while you're talking.
You
Keep
can, it doesn't
talking.
really matter because the DD20, like, you can't it is not as easy to flip between 2 or 3 presets the way it is on the DL4. Like,
Also, they came out in 2008, so a little bit after the DL4.
the DD20 is after?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Alright, well, so okay, cool. The DL4 is, like, the first multi-delay effect pedal that I think made an explosion into where we are now. It's kind of like the Big Bang Theory. That was like the first.
Yeah, I agree with
Right?
that.
That was the bang. And while I don't know how direct he was in his involvement with the coming out of that product, I know he had something to do with that product, right? So in my mind, Terry is a part of that. And then jump to the timeline, which came out in what, a dozen years ago?
I want to say
Somewhere?
2010, 2011.
Okay. 10 to 15
Let's
years ago from this time.
2012 actually.
2012, so a dozen plus 1, a baker's dozen years ago that Terry made. And again, an explosion. It's like the second big bang into digital like, delay effects. And then yet again a couple years ago with the LVX, then the third iteration of the big bang, and all of which have Terry's fingerprints on. So he is like the grandfather of, you know, of multi-delay effects. It's kind of like when we think about, like, really crazy looping, we always what is it? Fibrotronics? 'Cause we always think about Robert Fripp.
Yep.
We're talking about Terry here.
Terrytronics.
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 Terrytronics. Anyway,
No,
that was an aside for me. I don't know
no,
why I
it was cool to realize that. Like, I knew some of that history before we talked with Terry, but it was cool to, I don't know. He's had basically every pedal that I've fallen in love with over my whole guitar playing career. He
has his
designed
fingerprints.
part of it,
Yeah,
so that was really
yeah.
cool.
And I was extremely, and I've been this way with pretty much all of our guests, but I think knowing again the grandfather Big Bang theory here, Terry was extremely humble, and I think his offerings to our community have been huge. So again, thank you, Terry, for all of your hard work creating these wonderful masterpieces.
Yeah.
So, and I look forward to seeing what comes out in 10 more years.
Yes, I also look forward to that.
Yeah, evolution, the Terrylution.
Yes.
Terry.
The other thing I want to talk about, because we're
Yeah.
just doing like a grab bag of things that was teased on our Instagram. I mean, posted a few times. Is the grit cake from Like Jones?
Ooh,
Because we haven't had an episode
yes.
where we didn't have a guest since that.
The
So
grit cake, is it the Mark II or the version 2? I have it right here.
it's the version 2. It's the TPC mod. That little
It's got this,
circle.
yes.
Yes. So our friend Kris, who was on an early episode and will likely be a return guest at some point because we love Kris.
We just have
Put
to have
out.
like 3 hours to let him talk.
It was actually, yes, we have
He
to let
likes,
Kris.
Kris, you like to talk, and we love you for it.
It was, I want to say it was last October because I reached out to him initially during the Phillies playoff run during last October. That was short lived thanks to the New York Mets. But was like, hey man, I would love to commission some sort of like new version of the grit cake. And he's like, I have an exact idea of what that would look like. and that ended up with a version of the grit cake, which is Chris's take on the Crowther hot cake, a
Yeah.
pretty hard to get pedal nowadays in the US, from
Mm,
Australia, I
Australia, yep.
believe. Um, Taking that circuit and adding a clean blend to it,
Yeah.
which to me, I think when we did our overdrive series, I always like a clean blend just because I think it allows for additional articulation and for pedals to be able to sit in that space between playing lead guitar and playing rhythm guitar, where like sometimes I have, drives set differently. This is a little teaser of a series we want to talk about of tone shaping.
Mhm.
um but the clean blend on an overdrive, when set just so for your individual playing taste, can allow you to sort of have a drive pedal that very easily, without having to bend over and change things or engage another pedal, can give you the best of both worlds, of something that strums really well and articulated, and then if you flip into some lead lines, it also gives you enough bite and some
Yeah.
searing tone there.
Yeah.
And the Grit Cake TPC mod really does that. I think
I've been
both of
calling it
us
the
have.
Mark II.
It's the TPC mod. That's what it's called. That's what it says on the circuit board.
Well, and that's fine,
Uh,
but I think it's like the Grid Cake Mark II, but it with TPC mod is fine. That's fine, but
I know we were joking in our group chat about like people reselling the ones with all the like naming conventions we had behind it, which was fun.
yeah,
But it's also beyond being a great sounding pedal. It sounds awesome. Alan and I
it
have
sounds
both played with
amazing.
it. The timeline video I just did, I actually used the grit cake as my drive for a little bit of bite there. Not that it's like on full display there, because I'm doing a lot of like finger style stuff and lead little
Right.
licks, but um, it looks really cool because when you engage the pedal, it has Gritty, being a grit cake, Gritty,
See,
the Philadelphia Flyers
everybody can
mascot.
see this, Paul, because we're on video right now,
Okay.
and they can see it because it's in my hands.
You're saying this as if we're definitively going to do video, which is very funny, but I like that. But it is
Doo-doo,
Gritty, and when you engage the pedal, Gritty's eyes light up. Both eyes light
doot,
up. Two
doot,
orange
doot,
LEDs.
doot, doot.
Which beyond going into our, I think Kris was the episode "Tone is in the Aesthetic."
Yes,
It is a beautiful looking pedal, and it's really fun that Gritty's eyes light up when you engage it.
it is, and
So
I'm keeping to hold this up so people can know my settings.
yes. Oh yeah, yeah. We both we were exchanging settings. It is interesting to the ongoing conversation about how tone is in the hands. Alan's your tone knob was very different than my tone knob.
Yeah, my tone knob
Mine's
is
at
like
like
at
midnight, and yours is
mine's at like
like
2:30.
yeah, very different. You were getting you needed a lot more treble than on yours.
Yeah, but it
Uh,
also partially so it could interplay too. Where's your clean knob blend? Your TPC knob?
Mine
Mine's about
is
halfway.
mine's just like a little over halfway.
Okay. So I
So
bet
yeah,
they interplay.
yeah, they all interplay. But yes, so I just wanted to give a shout out to that pedal. Obviously we have a little part in it. It was fun to have Kris take our interests into account while designing a pedal. And I believe there's a few left in the first run.
Oh,
Kris,
wow.
maybe Kris can correct.
Sweet.
Chris can correct when we post this episode if that's true or not. But also Kris is always willing to take orders and build pedals. He builds great pedals, uses great components. They sound awesome.
I'm going on to the Instagram now. Here's what I love about it, and I think I told you this, like, it's I love as hard as it is for me to do demos of drive pedals, I love drive pedals, which is why I have so many of them, and I'm looking at I have the Montreal Assembly 2 Positive, which is in itself a hotcake clone. I'm looking at 2 versions of the Benson preamp. I'm looking at 3 versions of, Matt Hoop's 1981 Inventions DRV. Got, and these actually are all ones that we haven't done videos on. I've got the Get Up Kids Action in Action from Wonder Effects. Like,
Yes, shout
so
out
and
Wonder Effects.
I've got Brothers AM sitting down at my feet. I've got the Kitty Caster Effects Meerkat. I mean, I love
That's quite a mouthful.
it. It is. I love Drive, and I think part of us go on this journey to find our sound, like, right, our tone, and so much of it starts with a drive pedal, and it doesn't mean you have to have, like, super high gain or be into that space, but, um, having that signature sound. Well, you kind of alluded to it a little bit ago, Paul, but, like, for you and I, for the way that we have grown up playing, we've got, we do a lot of rhythm, we do a lot of lead, we do a lot of texture, and it can be very difficult to find all the different types of drive pedals to fit those places. And while
Yes.
I haven't given it the full 100% rundown of what I do to see how I like it, what I can tell you is this. My initial, just testing of the Gritcake V2, okay, he's calling it V2 on his page, so it's a V2. My initial testing of the Gritcake V2 is that it might actually be the only drive pedal I need because it is extremely responsive to my pick dynamics. It puts more onus on myself to play the way I want to play. So, like, if I'm, wanting less grit, uh, I back off my attack, right? Even in strumming, if I want more, like, rail into my attack, and it's responsive in every aspect. It's one of those few pedals that I have seen and heard a distinct difference between my, pickup selections. So, I play tellies with, humbuckers in the neck and singles in the bridge, and being able to hear distinct differences between the 2 or 3.
Yeah.
It's I I played hotcakes. Hotcakes don't do this, but the Gritcake V2 does, and it's fantastic. So, Chris, my friend, you did a killer job.
Yeah, I
Killer,
do want to
killer
say
job.
too, to like piggyback something you just said that was really impressive to me is the way that it also responds not just to pick attack, but all of the different guitar types of configurations of pickups I have. I was able to find like a really cool sound on it without too much fiddling, which is always important to me with a drive. Like humbuckers sounded massive, single coils sounded the way that I wanted them to, P90s sounded good. It's a really really good pedal. So if you have the means to and you want to get yourself a cool unique overdrive, you should go to Like Jones and get one. So that's
Absolutely.
that's our sponsorship for Kris today. We're
This
just doing ad reads today.
this episode
Uh
is reverse sponsored by Like Jones Pedals.
yes, reverse sponsored. Um the
Actually,
other
let's
thing,
be real too. Like you and I get nothing out of these pedals. You
yes,
know what I mean? Like this is
this
not
is
a
yes,
collaboration. This is a friend giving us
some
naming
love.
love.
Yes.
But this is aside from our interactions with him, and mainly your interactions with him, this is all Chris, all his, invention, all of his hard work, all of his labor, so he gets all the glory,
Yes.
even monetarily.
Yes, exactly. Um so
So,
we didn't really talk actually about the Enzo X preset pack, but it's really good, people, just because we touched on it, how to get it. There'll be more added to Enzo X too. I'm working on some presets over there.
Paul's Fresh Tasty Enzo X pack.
Yes.
I think all of
Yeah.
your preset packs are gonna be in, Paul's Fresh Tasty.
My favorite one I've made so far was actually, I don't think the video is out yet, but one I made with the Enzo X as the synth engine with the Walrus Audio Chi as some space and weirdness.
Yeah.
And I made a polysynth pad called Paddington, like our bear friend.
Yeah.
And I've actually kind of got stuck on playing with that one, so that's why you haven't seen a preset pack in full, because I have like 6 that I made, and I was like, I just really want to play with Paddington still. I like Paddington. Um,
It's a good
so
one. Well, why don't
yeah,
we drop this Friday? That
oh,
can be our Friday drop.
just
That's okay with you?
Paddington.
No, 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 the video.
Yeah,
The
everybody can
Chi
see that
video.
video then. Yeah, that
Yeah,
works. I like that.
yeah. So it'll be May. It'll it'll be it'll be a new month.
Yes, my
That's what
birthday
we're
month as well.
birthday month.
Yay.
Yes, yes.
Um, so
Oh,
yes, that is cool. This Enzo X, you put some really cool originals as well as a few emulations in our first Enzo
there's
X
only a
preset
couple
pack too.
emulations, and, I think when we first before they released the Enzo X, I assumed that it was going to be their answer to the Strymon Mobius,
Yes,
right?
and it was very different
It
when
was
it
very
came
different,
out.
but I think the educated guess behind it was if you look at Eventide, they had back in the day, they had the time factor, the pitch well, the time factor, the space, and the mod factor, right?
Yes, Mod
And then
Factor.
Strymon had the timeline, the big sky, and the Mobius. So logic said to me, it would make sense for Meris to release a modulations type thing. And so you and I like front loaded with so many pedals that we traded into that were all modulation, and none of which the Enzo X is meant to do because it is a synth.
Yes.
It's a synth pedal.
So we
It is
pivoted to synth emulations, which
right,
we'll have more
but
of. So
we don't have currently many
yes.
like things to emulate currently. So a lot of it is original content, and What's cool though is for those of you, this is a feature on the Enzo X. I don't know if everybody knows about fully, but you can play it with like a MIDI controller, like the video that's coming out Friday. You'll see Paul doing that. You actually probably saw slash heard me doing that a bit on the preset pack one video that we released. But also you can play a guitar into it, or you can play a piano. Like you can play things into it, like audio signal into it, or you can use MIDI signal. And the presets that you make sound different, or they react different. That's a better way of saying it. They react different to different types of inputs. I mean,
Yes.
I just say that out loud. That sounds like a duh, Alan. Of course, they react differently to different types of inputs, but it's almost like getting two sounds for the price of one, because what you're using, maybe playing a guitar and doing versus playing a MIDI controller, same preset, just different vibes.
Yeah,
And it's
distinctly different vibes.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So here we're like half an hour in. This is a very short episode if we stop it here, Paul. But we could also keep going and talk about something else.
So this is from our guitar pedals, hosted by
Our nausea.
Hosted by
Our nausea. Where's that from?
hipster slash. What is that from? Oh gosh, it's a movie.
It's a show.
Hipster slash
Somebody
Dragon.
post in the comments where that's from. No, it's Our nausea.
Yeah, I can't place it right now.
That's fine.
Hipster slash Dragon posted. People who buy vintage pedals for high prices. Are you paying for collectability, tone, preservations, or something else? Just kind of wondering why the vintage market is so expensive and what people value about vintage gear in particular.
Okay.
Answer. What do you think?
He didn't say flipping as one of the options.
Collectability, tone, preservation. He said, or something else.
Okay. Flipping. Here's what it boils down to. There are some components that you cannot get anymore in certain vintage gear.
Yes, Memory Man's old what's the pink label Boss choruses.
Yeah. There are
yes.
certain germanium diodes that you can't get anymore. Obsolescence is definitely a thing. And so that would be the reason why I would suggest looking at vintage gear if you can afford it. Is because if it has some of that OG components, you're not going to find that in new stuff. Does it make it better? Not necessarily, but that would be a reason to go vintage. Now, for me, it would probably be like tubes fall into this category, because like getting like Russian made tubes or UK made tubes by like Amprex, Bugle Boy, really hard to get. And so all that to say is some components that are no longer available do sound better. Some maybe not, but that would be a reason to go vintage, is because of obsolescence in componentry.
Yeah. I personally, and this is what I was relating back to our signature series thing, is like, I don't really own a lot of vintage pedals just because throughout the years of collecting, flipping, buying, anytime I did get one, I was like, oh, I could get so much for this, and I could buy other pedals with it. Like I, at one point in time, had one of the rats that had like the diode in it that people want. I forget even what it was. It was like a 1983 one or something.
I think it had a literal rat inside of it.
And
it was the 80s, man.
I very quickly was like, I don't really love this pedal enough to say like I need this in my collection, and I found someone who wanted to give me like $350 for it. So I said, hey, here you go, you want this. But to that being said, I have in recent years, especially once I've sort of like got like my pedal board, like this is what I use for playing and making music, and actually less so since we started the channel, but also like I come across it more of like I'm starting to collect things that I used to have like as like my like early gear, which now that we are 20 plus years into playing guitar, some of it is actually like vintage, quote unquote. But I think for me it's like collectability. Like also I think a lot of dudes who are buying like really high end dudes or dudettes who are buying really high, I use dudes gender neutral,
okay,
who are buying like really
I was just
high end
because I didn't know
high end vintage gear. I'm just gonna keep talking past that one. Is like it's collectability of like it can also be like stuff that like you played back when you
Yeah.
first started playing, and that
It's a
for me has
nostalgia.
been cool. But also the collectability of things like signature gears. Like if you have an artist you follow that you love and they put out a signature guitar, a signature pedal, signature amp, you're very likely going to want their gear
Mhm.
because of the fact that you want to collect it. Because
Sure.
at the end of the day, like all of us like to collect things like baseball cards. Like people collect stamps, people collect
STDs.
vinyl records. Wow, we're really, jeez.
Just going off the rails here.
But like people do like collecting things, and guitar pedals are definitely no different than that. And I
Yeah.
think that there is historically vintage things in any marketplace are going to cost more, and people want them because they're
Yeah.
more rare and harder to find.
Right.
So at
Right.
the end of the day, it's just like human nature is collect the things that are harder to find that cost more.
Yep.
Um,
And something to add to that is where they're made,
yes,
because a lot of manufacturers have changed locations of manufacturing for one reason or another. So I used to have a Fender Pro Junior little. This is back in the day when I really wanted that Vox sound but couldn't afford a Vox. I had a US version. They don't make them in the US anymore.
no, they're really cool. The older ones, they do sound different.
But the point of it being, a lot of things, like even Vox as the example, they used to be made in England, and now a lot of them are made in Asia.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that stuff, except tariffs now. But we won't
Well,
beat that
yes.
horse.
The other piece of this too, where they're made is like it's not just like they sound better, maybe, but like some people like want it from a certain country for like
Right.
I know, for example, I've had quite a few made in Japan Fender guitars over the years. I currently don't, and I actually really regret one of the ones I got rid of, which was an ST62 Strat, which is like the Japanese version of a 62 custom shop Strat.
Okay.
I had one that was like absolutely killer in Olympic white with a mint green pickguard, really great neck on it. And what I was always impressed with the MIJ guitars, because I had a Mustang in that series as well and a Tele. The electronics on those were like just impeccably wired.
Yeah.
Like no sloppiness, just tight, very, very well soldered, beautifully put together inside when you open them up. And the same with pedals. I know that's been the case with like certain circuit boards or just better circuit boards.
Right.
And you'll see that it's also hard. I think the vintage market. We've gone a little bit far afield of the question of why do people buy vintage. I think we've answered that, but it is hard to also know like if you're getting into this or like collecting it all. Like people love to make it sound like what they have as a collectible because that's part of like the sales and marketing technique of owning something and trying to sell it. Which we have spoofed quite a few times when we're like, it's a pedal collaborative owned this. It's very hard to sort of parse out like whether something is actually worth the juice is worth the squeeze when someone's like, it's a Pink Label Boss pedal, and it's like mileage may vary on the Pink Label Bosses. Like some of them are good, some of them are actually better now than
So
they
do
were
your
then.
research.
Do your research.
So
when you're getting into vintage pedals.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for your time on this rant, and you're here with us still. And I would say if there are any complaints, please email Paul at thepedalcollaborative.com.
Little shout out to that. That's actually now available on our Instagram because I set up a new link tree, and you can email us directly right there if you ever want to email us.
Can you?
Yeah, it's on there.
What did you?
I put a hello at pedalcollaborative.com right there.
I know, but I was giving him a fake email address.
I know. I was going to tell you this, but I forgot to tell you.
Tree. Look at this, guys. And gals. And other.
It's really fancy, right?
This is cool. What is this? All right, so I'm looking at this thing, right? What's this? Is this a like
That's the
open
Patreon
table?
logo. That's the Patreon logo.
That's the Patreon logo?
Yeah.
It looks like it. I feel like I want to make reservations at Open Table.
Yeah, well, I set that up. I forgot to tell you that. I did that this morning before we recorded.
So. Is that why you were late to the recording?
No, I was late for other reasons. But
okay.
Yeah, so anyhow, you can check it out on our Instagram page. If you want to find all the different things we talk about, our website, our YouTube.
I'm tearing up. This is so
podcast,
touching.
Our Patreon is all there. It's all accessible. You can bother Alan on all of those places.
Please
don't bother me. Address everything to Alan. He is our HR department, even though he's the one who usually needs HR.
Usually, but not always, Paul.
Usually, but not always. And
not always.
We will see you all next week. Have an awesome week. Bye-bye.
Bye.